podcast, start streaming, and I think we are indeed and or in fact live for the Grind Mastermind episode numero 8.
Nice.
Chris, how you doing?
I am good. It's been another couple of busy weeks, but catching up. I
Busy
haven't
is
worked
good.
on client last weekend, so that was good. Taking a break a couple of days.
Busy is good. It means the bank account stays alive, and it means lots of
Yep.
stuff to talk about, right, on the episode.
Yeah.
So,
Totally.
all right.
What about you?
I'm doing
How
pretty
you been
well.
up
I
to?
we had to bump this back a week because I had a cold for like 4 or 5 days last week. I tested for COVID. I mean, I tested once for COVID. You never know with those tests these
Uh,
days, right? But it was
is the
negative. So
is COVID still a thing?
it is,
Looks
man.
like it
I've
never happened.
so
Wow.
it is. I think maybe in certain parts of the world, like someone was telling me a few weeks ago that apparently they're having huge cases reported in India right now again.
Damn.
Maybe some other countries, but I think they're like it's just not as in the news. I don't know, right? I'm not a doctor. I'm not a statistician or whatever, so I don't know. But there was something going around in Canada. I think it might have just been like sometimes when the seasons change, just people get
hmm
get the cold or whatever. And then I heard it was going around India a little bit, so I don't know. Maybe it's just not in the news as much, or maybe it's just in very concentrated areas. So, anyways, we're back. We're ready to roll. We're ready to grind. So, you want to jump in? For those of you tuning in
Yeah,
for
I
the first
can.
time, we do a quick update on the last 2 weeks of our business. Then we talk about goals for the next 2 weeks to stay accountable. And then we talk about, our favorite books and tools that we've seen in the last couple weeks. And that's it. So, Chris, why don't you jump in? How'd the last, I guess in this case, 3 weeks go? And let's pull up. Let's pull it up.
Yeah.
Actually, let's pull up the notes. You wanted to A/B test, edit, and review Hotjar results for your landing page, and then review Facebook ads data.
Yeah, so actually I stumbled on a bit of a problem there. So I basically redesigned, simplified the landing page, which was basically as a bit of background, I'm testing this idea that I want to validate for an info product, which is basically an ebook for e-commerce business owners. And I was running Facebook ads, but I realized that the sales page that I'm sending people to for the sign up is a bit long. It's a bit more too much story centered, so I wanted to simplify it basically. But so I did that. The page now I have a variant which is much shorter, focused on the actual contents of the ebook right away. But the problem that I realized is in the Facebook ads. So what I didn't know, because it was my first time running ads, it was the Facebook pixel. For some reason, I thought that it was installed on my website. But then I found out that there's a WordPress plugin that you can install on your site that basically automatically installs the pixel. And through that, doing that, I realized that the Facebook pixel wasn't installed at all. So I went ahead, I tried installing them. You basically follow a process. And Facebook inevitably told me that I already have an ad account. I realized basically that there's a mess between my business account and my personal Facebook account. I have no idea how to manage that. And
Right.
basically now I cannot fix that because for some reason there was a random Facebook ad account created, and I cannot I tried like deleting that account.
I don't know if you
Facebook
can delete it.
basically
I don't. Yeah, you might not be
fa-
able to.
Facebook closed it,
Oh,
but apparently I'm still limited by one ad account. I cannot add another one, so my Facebook pixel situation is basically stuck in limbo now. Obviously, there's no way to access Facebook support. I tried sending a message, but obviously they didn't get back to me. And yeah, I basically have no idea. It's such a mess with all the personal business accounts. I have no idea how to basically fix the situation because I have the ads, but I was running them through my personal account rather than the business account.
Uh,
But the pixel needs to be on the business account. So
right, but then they canceled your business account?
no, they cancel. I closed that ad account, which is separate from the Facebook business account. It's so fucking, it's such a mess. There's so many accounts, so many different screens. The user interface is shit.
But
So
why
yeah,
why don't you grab the pixel from the ad account and stick that in?
I cannot even explain it. It's so fucking complex. I
You
have to
might just
show
want
you
to
how to do
find you might just want to find it. Like, you're never going to get customer support. I think unless you're spending like 6 figures a month, you can't
Yeah,
even
no,
talk
I'm
to people.
trying.
Why don't you just find an expert, like pay an expert for an
Yeah,
hour or two and
I'm trying to ask some friends, but yeah, it's hard. So I'll
yeah.
probably have to find someone who can just take a look at my account and understand what's happened and what I've done because I basically did something wrong in the creation of the account.
Yeah, I
And basically,
remember too.
yeah,
It's very weird with like what's your personal, what's your business, what you can do with each, and then they can't connect, so they're totally separate. So
yeah,
be careful when
and
you're setting
also
up your ad accounts, folks.
yeah, and also the problem is that whenever you go and look for uh like a video, like an
Like a
example of
how-to.
people like a how-to video, the Facebook platforms is constantly updating and changing, so
Right.
whatever video you watch is always going to be outdated and different. So
Yeah.
it sounds like seems like they do it on purpose. I don't know,
I
but
would
yeah,
go find an ads
everything's ready.
expert. I bet
Yeah,
you an ads expert can probably get that fixed in 20, 30 minutes, or at least tell you what to do pretty
do you know
quickly.
anyone?
Good question. I don't off the top of my head. Let me think about it. If someone comes to mind, I'll send you a
Yeah,
message.
if you can ask around.
Or like post in any of these Slacks or Discords that you're in, any of the communities.
Hmm.
I'm sure, or
Yeah.
heck, ask on your email list. I bet maybe somebody listening can.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's what I would do. I get that it's a mess. The account management for Facebook's a mess, so it's not fun. Make sure you get it set up right the first time, and it'll save so many headaches.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So yeah, I basically shifted since this thing happened. I wasn't too much in control of it, so I basically shifted my attention a bit more towards content again. So I want to take the YouTube situation channel a bit more seriously. And yeah, I spent some time thinking about it. I basically created like a new setup. I want to start doing some videos, more of like educational, like kind of like monologue, but edited, like nicely edited videos.
hmm.
So I basically finalized kind of the setup that I want this morning. Also because the past 2 weeks it was a bit hard to take some time off and create some space in between client projects. So that's what I was able to do this week finally. And yeah, so next weeks I want to record the first of those new videos, which have are gonna involve like a script, so
Should I
something
write
like a
this
bit more
down?
serious.
This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
this is one
So
of the. Okay.
yeah, I have a
So
new
record
app.
first. Record
Record
first.
first.
Well, it's not your like first video, but like first new YouTube video.
Yeah,
It's not really new.
format.
You know what I mean? New video format. Yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah.
good terminology there.
And also, yeah, basically I have all this whole process, but the editing obviously takes some time, so I want to create an SOP or something for my assistant to take on.
I was gonna ask how
And
you're
then
gonna do the editing. You're gonna use the VA.
uh, yeah, yeah, it's actually quite simple, so I like it shouldn't take me like if I do it more than an hour because with the script everything so is super easy. I do everything with that.
Yeah. How long?
And
What are you thinking for the videos? Like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes?
yeah, between 5 and 10. Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing
Okay.
too complex. Yeah,
So I'll say create editing instructions for VA.
yeah, SOP. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked about that. Also because it's feels challenging, so it's good.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I actually think, and this is something I've been thinking of doing lately too, like almost like vlog style YouTube videos can be like pretty low hanging fruit opportunities where you don't have to do crazy editing, right? You sit in front of
Yeah,
the camera, you have, in your office with the background, you talk for a minute or two, hit pause, talk for a minute or two, hit pause, talk for a minute or two, hit pause, and then you're done,
yeah.
you know?
I'll send you a quick clip that I've recorded this morning. It's actually pretty good,
Oh, cool.
and yeah, it didn't
The other thing, man, you should
go.
look at some AI tools, right? You might be able to like drag and drop the video into an AI tool that'll edit the whole
Mm.
thing for you.
Especially, yeah, I thought about that, especially for the thumbnails, just because I have no idea how to create thumbnails or what works.
Yeah.
Maybe if there's probably gonna be some tool up there.
From now on, like anytime there's like a manual task, just like Google it with AI at the end and see
Yeah,
what comes up because there's probably something.
yeah,
Or I wonder if you can use like Dall-E, like that's the photo AI one, like the,
yeah, but
but I don't know if it
I'm
does.
not
I don't know
sure.
if it would do like YouTube optimized thumbnails. Maybe
Mm.
not. I don't know. Worth trying though.
Can try, yeah.
But I mean, all you really need it like you could use something like Dall-E to be like, take this photo and make it look like a YouTube thumbnail, and then you can go into ChatGPT and be like,
Hmm.
you know, type me out a
Yeah,
an SEO optimized
prompt.
headline, and then just copy and
Yeah, yeah.
paste it over top. So that's cool. Yeah. So we'll see. Okay, so for next 2 weeks, record first new YouTube video format, create editing
And
instructions for VA.
yeah, I mean, third, we can also put fix Facebook ad situation. Just a
Fix
little
Facebook
open-ended.
ads and get Pixel set up. And anything on the client side to talk about, or it's just like, hey, I'm just doing client work, like not too much to talk
Uh,
about. How's that going?
yeah, no, it's been going well. Especially keep improving how I use ChatGPT for that. So I'm pretty stoked about it.
Are you using it a lot? Like, how are you using it? What are the best use
Yeah,
cases?
yeah, yeah. Research. So it's really good, especially if you like when you're new to a field, to a market. You basically give it. Let's say that you run the first customer interviews, so you know the pain points, the problems, the challenges that these people have. Then you can just input them in ChatGPT, and then you can ask it something like, write a diary entry from a first-person perspective of uh, type, persona, role,
Hmm.
who's experiencing this category of pains problems, and then you list all the pains problems that you found, and then it writes you like literally the diary entry of this person, and it's basically like reading someone's mind, and you
Right.
get a lot of like useful sentences that you can use for headlines, for vivid copy. So
So it's
it's really
like you
good.
you almost don't have to go interview. I mean, you should, but you almost don't have to like go interview the target market, right?
Yeah, like if you wanted to like do a super simple 80/20 thing, you could just do this thing basically using whatever things information you can find online.
It's crazy. It's crazy. The people who still don't think it's gonna like improve everything, I think are nuts. But anyways, cool.
Yeah,
Anything else?
there was this guy I follow on a podcast, Scott Galloway, and he said
Write that down.
something like AI is not gonna steal your jobs, but people who can use AI are gonna steal your jobs.
I saw you posted that on LinkedIn. I was like, that's
Yeah,
brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah, I totally agree. And I'll mention all these in the show notes. So if you're listening or watching, all these tools, people that we reference, I'll list them in the show notes or in the description below. So
yeah.
yeah, I totally agree.
Probably, and probably the biggest takeaway on that is not that like with using AI, that doesn't mean like knowing how to write a prompt, because formulas don't work with AI. It's always like different. It's always like it's always changing, unpredictable. So you actually need to understand the fundamental principles of how to ask questions, step by step, like how to instruct it. So all the like those deeper fundamentals are how you interact. It's more of an interaction with AI. It's not like using tools, like
Yeah.
passive tools.
I mean, there probably already are jobs posted right now for like AI prompt engineer or like,
Yeah,
AI
yeah, yeah.
prompt whatever. So, cool. Anything else before we flip over?
No,
So
all
just to
good on my
summarize,
side.
record first new YouTube video, create editing instructions for VA, fix Facebook ads, and get Pixel set up. Okay, we'll flip over to me. Yeah, last week I was sick, so it was a little bit slower. That's why we bumped this episode back. But it's been a busy few weeks in a few ways. Continue cold call outreach. I've been doing that. In fact, I've been even ramping it up because we've made that just even more of a priority. So just, yeah, I don't know. I've been in kind of improving my script. Every day that you do it, you get a little bit better, right? Just like anything,
Nice.
you get a little bit more comfortable. So
How
I'm
many calls do you get done?
it depends on really two things I've found. Number one is how many other calls do I have booked that day? So for example, like today I already have 3 or 4 demos booked, so I obviously can't be cold calling while I'm, on those calls. And then secondly, I find that like it depends how lucky you get. Because for example, like some days you'll call 20, 30, 50 people and you'll get like 98% of them go to voicemail or like they're really quickly not interested or whatever, right? And then what
Mhm.
happened to me twice now this week, since I've gotten some good advice from one of our advisors and shifted my strategy a little bit, is you might get a couple people that pick up and it turns into a 5-10 minute conversation. Or better yet, you pick up and you convert to an immediate demo. So what I mean by that is what I typically do, like, and this is one piece of advice I got that was really good, is in sales, you need to be always closing the next step, right? You don't have to sell every time you talk to the client, but you have to close that next step, right? So in our case, the cold call next step is usually a demo. So get them on the phone. Hey, is this something that could be a good fit? Blah, blah, blah. If yes, all right, can we schedule a demo for tomorrow, 3 p.m., right?
Mhm.
What I was told to do earlier this week was, if they seem interested, just ask them if they want the demo right now, right? So this happened to me twice in the last 2 or 3 days, which gets you pretty fired up when it happens. Is you're like, oh hey, do you have 15 minutes right now, and I can show you our platform? And twice they were like, yeah. So I email them a Google Meet link. Bam! All of a sudden you have them right on a live demo. So
Nice.
that's kind of like a cool little tip that I learned that maybe people can apply. But like when that happens, that's a 40-minute, 20, 30, 40-minute session, right? So this is a long, winding way to answer your question of saying probably in the range of like 30 to 70, depending on per day, depending
Mhm.
on how many
Well,
calls I already have booked
yeah.
and how good they go, right? How well they go, how responsive that portion of the list is. You know what I mean? So I'm going to put for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to put 30 plus, because like I said, some days are busy and I don't have enough time, but I think most days I can get minimum 30 cold calls in, usually more, but just so that it's not crazy. Overseas team running and first free trial. So we've been, to make a long story short, we turned off the overseas team for now because it just didn't work that
Mm.
well, and we're seeing more traction within Canada. So we're just going to focus all of our efforts in Canada for now, and then expand out from there.
Mhm.
Touch up and improve join page. So I did that. I touched up the join page, and I did letter growth. So the last item was prep letter growth outreach and send to 10 newsletters. I sent to 5 or 6, so I still have to do 5 more. I'll just say another 10 because 2 weeks, it's pretty easy, but I wanted to talk to you about that in just 1 second. 10 letter growth outreach. And I'm going to just write a little bit more subjectively. Oh no, I have to do this anyways. Finish new demo script. So I also got some really good feedback. So we have one sales advisor, and he even joined a few of my demos and gave me some feedback on like how to show off the platform, good questions to ask, how to frame pain points, stuff like that. So I have to kind of like touch it up and add notes. What I've found, man, is if you just have notes or a script for anything, it makes it way easier and way less stressful, right?
Yeah.
For a cold call, for a
same.
demo.
Yeah, it's the same thing for the YouTube videos, I realized. So I thought I thought that you just needed to jump on a YouTube video and do everything perfectly. Actually, if you take some time to write a script, and then while you're recording, you can actually take your breaks, just read the script, and then edit those parts. It doesn't need to
Yeah.
be everything done at the first shot.
Well, let me ask you this. Are you going to script the whole video word for word?
Probably just doing an outline
Yeah.
and maybe expand on some of the more technical points, but yeah, not fully script, not reading
Okay.
everything.
Because that's my style. I don't really do random YouTube video. Not yours won't be random, but I don't do YouTube videos anymore. I do once in a while. I'll do like a book review video. If anyone's interested and you're already watching us on YouTube, you can check out some of the book reviews. Some of them have actually done pretty well, but I found what I like to do best was just do an outline, introduction, one sentence. First top, what's the first key takeaway from this book? What's the second key takeaway? Just like one sentence. And then I would just talk. And I like that more because number one, it takes less time than writing out a full script. And number two, I find it sounds less robotic if I'm just like, okay, this is what I'm going to talk about. Okay, just talk and see how it goes. And if it doesn't come out well, you just delete it and record it again, right?
Yeah.
But I know that some people, especially some of the bigger, content creators, will write every word of the script out ahead of time and kind of read off of
Yeah.
it. So I guess it depends on what you're trying to do and how confident of a speaker you are, right? If you're not a great off the top of your head speaker, it could be intimidating, and writing it out ahead of time might be better. So
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna
anyways.
be a learning curve, but I'm pretty excited. I watched like to kind of see what other people do. I watched a couple of Skillshare videos, Skillshare courses.
Yeah.
The Marquise Brownlee, the big tech review guy.
No.
He's got a super short 1 hour course where he basically walks through his entire process, and he is one of those that scripts literally everything, but he's got a huge budget, obviously, like a super huge studio, so it makes sense. I
Yeah.
watched another one which is by Nathaniel Drew, another pretty big YouTuber, different style. But yeah, those were really good as far as giving me like an idea for how these guys go about like the whole process and how they think about videos. And yeah, and also Skillshare, if you can do like a 1 month free trial, so and do as many courses, take as many courses as you want. So I'm probably just gonna deactivate the trial in a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, if
Since
you got what you needed. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
All right. I threw Skillshare in the show notes as well. Cool. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on and ask you about was, so for letter growth, that's for newsletter, cross promotions. I sent email. So they don't have, the first thing that shocked me was he doesn't have in-app messaging, right?
No. The only way is to email other people.
How does he not have in-app messaging? Dude, I like letter growth. I'm in their Discord as well. What's his name? Paul,
Yeah,
I
because I
think?
told you.
Paul, you got to
Yeah,
get on
Paul
that, man.
Ralph.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but the problem is that I told you he built that platform with no code
Yeah, but
kind
there's
of
got to,
solution.
I'm sure like the big no-code solutions like Buffer and stuff allow you to build in-app
Yeah,
messaging,
but
no?
also depends on your budget, right? So if that's gonna
I
be
guess.
expensive, you're still not making any money out of that.
I
So
guess so.
I,
But I
I
was
guess he just
shocked.
wanted to build the. It's still an MVP, so I think it makes sense still.
Right. I think you did mention that, so I wasn't like fully surprised, but I was like, wait, what? I gotta go email these people? And so
Yeah,
what happened was I emailed like
that's
5 or
the
6 of them,
plan
and only one of them's responded, right? So I'm like, are these emails going to spam? I'm a random person. You know what I mean? Anyways, one of the guys responded
know.
yesterday. So we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to send another 10 more out. just
In my
requesting a cross
case,
promo.
I got a pretty good conversion. Out of 16, I got 15 responses. So maybe it's
Wow.
just figuring out the type of newsletter that might be interested.
I mean, I looked up newsletters that were smaller, around my size, had a few of the keywords that were matching,
Yeah.
personalized each one a little bit. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I only sent them out like 2, 3 days ago, so maybe a
Yeah.
couple more will trickle in.
I
But
would recommend reaching out to the bigger ones as well, because I got on a couple ones that were way bigger than mine. They don't really care as much as long as you show them that you have a good open rate, a good sized list. Does even if it's like 100 people, 200, they don't really
oh
care.
wow.
So
What
so
kind of do they
they can
want? Like
try.
favorable terms? Are they like, hey, our list is way
No,
bigger?
no.
So oh wow. Okay. So let me note that down. So 10 letter growth outreach, and I'll say improve copy, and don't and try some bigger lists.
I can send you the emails that I sent them if you want.
Yeah, if you don't mind, because clearly whatever the heck you were doing was working. So might as well, right? Okay, yeah. So
Sure.
that's it for me. 30 plus cold calls a day. Finish new demo script, and 10 plus letter growth outreaches, and we'll see how that goes. Do you want to get into arguably my favorite segment in the last one of the show? What we have been reading and tinkering with over the last 2, 3 weeks?
Yeah. So I finished for the second time a book by Scott Adams, who's artist for Dilbert comic book,
Hmm.
and the book is called "How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big," and
Good title.
it's probably as close as possible to my philosophy of life. Like there's so much stuff that resonates from like like seeing life as like using your energy as as kind of like telling you what's good, what's bad in your life, routines, using systems versus goals. But then it goes into basically everything like fitness, nutrition, and it's funny as well. But it's really counterintuitive type of thinking, which is what I enjoy and sticks with me. So that was really good. Even the second time, I actually got the paperback for that, which
Hmm.
right here, this one.
Oh, nice. Yeah, if you're listening, then make sure to check out
Yeah,
this episode video on YouTube as Chris
yeah.
holds up the book. So what's the key? What's the key answer to that statement of like what? Just keep trying, and even as you fail, you'll slowly figure things out, or like what's that
No,
key
no,
theme?
it goes way deeper. A lot of lessons, but a really good point that he makes is that uh, like success is habit forming, he says. So it's not that you have to follow your passion. That's probably not gonna work. But when you start doing a lot of things and get good at a lot of things that even if they are unrelated, that success uh, pushes you to be successful at other things. So the more things you try, the more you're open to opportunities. All of that basically is going to contribute at making you a more interesting person, and a more successful person in general.
Makes
It's
sense.
basically
Makes sense.
taking the approach from the other end. So rather than letting your passion, whatever it is, guide you, start doing things, a lot of things, and uh, and that success will basically propel you to more success and to actually enjoying what you are doing.
Got it. Let me. I'll put the book name. What's the author's name?
Scott Adams.
Scott Adams. You like your Scots, eh? What's the title? We'll get it after. I'm muting myself when I'm not talking for anyone who can hear. There's Of course, starting this morning as we started to record, there's somebody doing construction right above us. But anyway, so I apologize.
Mm.
Cool. What's next on your list?
I just started out with Bad Motherfucker, which is the biography. It's not the autobiography, but a biography of Samuel L. Jackson, which is very interesting, very, very, very cool. Which actually, cool is basically the main subject of the of the book.
Hmm. All right. Be interesting to hear how that goes. On my end, I just finished Buffett. So what's it called?
Ah,
Biography on Buffett called I think it's called The Making of an American Capitalist is like the subheading.
ah,
It's by Roger somebody, I forget. I'll put it in the show notes because there's a million biographies on him, right? But this one's really good. Reread. I read it years ago. Really enjoyed it, and man,
is it a
he's an
chunky one?
interesting. It's not short. It's probably about
Ah,
I think 400 pages.
ah, very good.
Yeah, it's certainly not one of the shorter biographies I've read. Not the longest, but yeah, more on the longer end. But I think worth every page. Like I think the whole story, go into detail about him as a kid. First side businesses he was running as a kid. Oh, this banging is so stupid. Anyways, can you hear it, Chris?
Mm.
The
No.
construction? Oh no, okay, because it's showing up on my recording software, so I think our listeners can hear it. So I apologize. But anyways,
I
um, yeah, how
have a
it.
question about I have a question about the like biographies in general and how you see them, especially because sometimes when it starts out with like some biographies starts telling you the story about like the mother, the father, the grand grandfather. Sometimes I think like, oh wow, there's a very long way before getting to the actual person I'm interested in. So how do you think about like these biographies telling all these backstories? How do you interpret the backstories into actually giving you some lessons that you can use? Or do you just listen to them as like entertainment?
Well, I find the good ones don't go into too much detail on the family
Ah,
on the predecessing family, right? So, for
mm,
example, I thought this book did a really good job of like very quick history of how his family came and settled in America, for example, and they really just highlighted what I think was important, right? So, for example, like his parents and grandparents were grocers, right, and how that
mm,
influenced him, right? So basically, I think that it should be kept short, but it's important to highlight how the person that the book is about was influenced by the family, right? Because we're all
yeah,
influenced by our family in one way or another, for good and for bad. And the reason why I think it's important is it because it puts the person in context, right? Like Warren Buffett didn't just appear at the age of 25, right? He had all of those
hmm,
years of growth and whatever, and you're influenced so heavily, right, by your parents. So I like the books that give you a little bit of background on the family. I would argue now, I mean, now I've read probably 20, 30, 40 of these biographies, that some people have heavier influences from their families than others. And so if you do have a heavier influence, there might be a little bit more of the book dedicated to the family. But if it's not a heavy influence, then it might just be like, oh, he was born here, his parents did this and that, and they were pretty involved or they weren't involved, and then they kind of move on, right? Um,
mm.
yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I'm also still reading. Sometimes it's not like a continuous effort because it's an effort. It's like a 1,000-page biography of Rockefeller, and I'm kind of half through it. I'm listening to the audiobook, but yeah, the author goes back and forth super deep into the family history, so it's not an easy read for sure.
Yeah, I would say that's more up to the author, right? If the author does a good
Mm.
job on, or like, what's the book about? Is it about the Rockefeller history, or is it about, that one person? But most of the biographies that I've read are like, entrepreneurs within the last decade or two or three. And I find that on average, the authors do a good job. They give you a little bit of background on the family so that you can see how the person was influenced and how, a little bit about how they became what they are today. But it's mostly focused on that main character, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's a great read, highly recommended. Almost anything you read from or about Buffett, I think you'll learn a lot. I also found, and I just wrote this in my email this morning, I think. So make sure if you guys like the podcast, Chris and I both have daily emails that you can sign up for. The links will be in the description. And I was talking about how Buffett's kind of interesting and like he's not your quote unquote traditional entrepreneur, right? Like most of the biographies that I read about, and a lot of yours as well, are, the Bezos, the Musk, the Kroc, it's like person starts a business, person grows that one business that does one thing, right? Or eventually grows into doing a few things. But Buffett has made most of his fortune investing in businesses, right? And not necessarily operating them or starting them. And so that was really cool because it talks a lot about his approach to evaluating businesses, investing in businesses, being an investor in a business, right? So how hands-on or not was he? The importance of trusting management, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was super, super interesting. And just the fact that I don't think most people realize that Berkshire Hathaway used to be a textile mill that just like pumped out, schmuttas and stuff. And now it's like, a multi-hundred plus whatever $billion company. And they have a staff of like 15, right? All they do is manage and grow an investment portfolio. So like that hasn't really been done. Like, you know what I mean? Like his investment record is like borderline incomparable, right, to almost anybody else. Mm-hmm. So anyways, crazy story, highly recommended read, super smart guy. The last thing I'll mention is I've also read, what's it called? It's called like the letters of, I think it's just called The Essays of Warren Buffett, which is, for the last few decades, he writes a letter as part of his annual report, stakeholder or shareholder report for Berkshire. And, there's gold in there, right? He'll write like pages of how the company's doing, his thoughts on business, investing. Somebody compiled them all into like an order that makes sense. You know what I mean? Almost like a textbook, but it reads much less boring than a textbook. And you're just getting like business advice from Warren Buffett. So highly recommended as well. I'll put that, let me note it down in the show notes.
And by the way, if you want to get some couple of nuggets from books, just go into ChatGPT and ask it for any summary of any book before 2021 and you'll get the summary. It's crazy.
Yeah, for the quick hits, it's great. I think if you still want the full lessons, then it's worth reading them. But it's certainly a good hack. Sure. Cool, man. I think that's it for me. Anything else on your end?
No, everything's good.
Alrighty.
Planning another couple of busy weeks.
So we will then see everybody in the next episode. Again, if you're interested in any of the books or tools that we mentioned, just check the description, whether you're listening to this on a podcast or watching on YouTube. I'll note them down in the description. We'll be back in 2 weeks. And thanks for tuning in. Make sure to check us out on our websites as well, ChristopherSilvestri.com, solopreneurs.com. Those links will be in the description if you want to follow us a little more closely. And we'll see you in the next episode. Chris, always a pleasure.
Pleasure, man. Let's grind it out.
All right.